We don't like the policy here either, Wolf. This is not a policy that people are excited about.
But it was their choice.
We have a law in this country, okay, and I've already talked about my capacity for compassion,
does not mandate
the way we all
separating
feel.
kids and
Hold
families.
on. Christopher, nobody said it did.
Yes, somebody did say that, namely the Attorney General.
You are smuggling a child, then we will prosecute you. And that child may be separated from you as required by law.
So see if you can follow this. It's a policy, it's not a policy. It's a law, it's not a law. Also, it's a deterrent, but it's not a deterrent.
Because why would I ever create a policy that purposely does that?
Perhaps it's a deterrent.
No.
She says no, but Jeff Sessions hours later says...
Are you considering this a deterrent?
Yes, hopefully people will get the message.
And the whole time, the president could stop it. This was the White House choice to do this, to separate children from parents, but the president claimed his hands were tied.
What about executive order?
You can't do it through an executive order.
So that was Friday. Friday, he said he could not do it through executive order, but by yesterday?
Today, I signed an executive order. We're going to keep families together.
That is a pretty rapid about-face in just days on not just one issue, on like 6 different finer points here, complete reversals. I suppose the question is why? What forced the president to backtrack here so dramatically? Joining us now, CNN political director David Chalian, CNN political analyst and New York Times reporter Alex Burns. You know, David, I do not think we have seen a surrender like this from the president on any issue. So the question is why?
Yeah, it's a stunning moment in the young history of the Trump presidency. You're right, John. I haven't seen the president buckle to public pressure like this. He's run into, walls with the judiciary on the travel ban and had to sort of reverse course and try again. He's run into some problems with Congress on health care, not getting certain things that he wanted along the way. But he has never just completely done a 180-degree turn because of public pressure from something he created, as you just noted. Why? Well, we know that the president is a very avid consumer of cable news. This has been dominant coverage everywhere. That clearly had some influence. He also referenced his wife and his daughter making their case that this needed to end. And quite frankly, John, I also can't think of another policy of this administration that so many Republicans across the swath of the party said that they were opposed to. Not even, his tariffs, and I understand that, Republicans are usually free traders, and we've heard grumblings of that. But I've not seen a Trump administration policy that got such resounding poor reviews from his own party.
And that is remarkable in and of itself. There's also the issue, though, Alex, as we look at this, that this is far from resolved, despite the president saying, here I am, I signed this executive order last night. We still don't know. We've been asking all morning. We don't know what happens to these 2,300 children, whether they get reunited. There's no plan there. And the plan itself is about to face massive legal challenges, from what we understand, in this executive order.
That's right. So this is really sort of kicking the can for the president that maybe it resolves some of the immediate pressure in a political crisis. It doesn't resolve this as a policy matter, and the hope in the administration and among some Republicans in Washington that Congress actually would step in and pass some kind of legislation that would bring a more final resolution to this, that hope has evaporated pretty quickly. There is this sense that the Hill is just not going to have its act together on this. Nobody has ever lost money by betting against a big Republican immigration bill in the House of Representatives, and that appears to be where we are again. So what the president and his administration have effectively done is detonate this colossal fight over the border, and specifically about the treatment of children on the border, with no end in sight 4 months before an election.
It's interesting to me. The president clearly wants this picture to go away. It's unclear to me whether it does go away. We just talked to Jim Jordan, big supporter of the president from Ohio, and he could not believe that there was not a solution to putting the 2,300 children back together with their parents. He literally did not believe it. I had to read him the executive order, point out to him that the language wasn't there. I think that there will be Republicans for whom the president's actions are not satisfying. David.
I think you're right, John. There's no doubt this reunification issue is going to be the immediate overhang of what did not get resolved in the executive order. We may, who knows if other images, video, audio emerge from this period of time where children were being separated from their families, which will dominate coverage. So it's not as if the president signed this and can just put it to bed. And to Alex's point about being just 4 months away from an election, while the immediate, acute political problem, if indeed the images stop occurring because children are no longer being separated from their families, that may be alleviated by the stroke of the president's pen. But this moment, that Time magazine cover that you just showed, Erica, this moment is a definitional moment of the Trump presidency right now, and that doesn't go away in voters' minds come this November.
And we are so close when we look at November, Alex. It doesn't go away, but on both sides of the aisle, lawmakers have to be very careful about how they bring this up.
Oh, that's absolutely true. And you know, talking to Democrats yesterday, they're not necessarily delighted to have a big fight over immigration policy broadly, that they recognize that they're competing in a lot of parts of the country where immigration is not popular, where there is a sense of alarm about the border, and where the fairly drastic things the president says about drug smuggling, MS-13, where those kinds of arguments resonate. What concerns Republicans the most right now, once we get past, if we get past this immediate moment of these awful images, coming out of the family separation policy, is whether they have essentially thrown away the potential high ground in some places of the country on the issue of immigration. Does it make it harder for Republican candidates to go out and make the case for a tough policy on the border that doesn't include family separation if it's now seen as kind of tainted by what the administration has just done?
Scoop Machine Alex Burns, while we have you here, one question would be, what will Democrats spend on? Will they fight on this issue? You're reporting that Michael Bloomberg, former Republican, former independent, current, who knows what the hell he is going to spend $80 million to help flip Congress, help elect Democrats.
Right. Now, this is a really big deal in the battle for control of the House. The Republicans have had a big spending advantage in a lot of the special elections we've seen so far. They've been counting on that money to save them just enough seats to keep control of the House. And now here comes Michael Bloomberg, like a bulldozer or some other sort of piece of large machinery.
It's a bobcat. To be fair, it's a very small bulldozer.
Tens of millions of dollars. This is a guy who is aligned totally with the Democratic Party, or at least the sort of moderate wing of the Democratic Party, on issues like immigration. And talking to his advisors over the last few days, they said he was incensed about the border. The plan was coming together before the family separation policy went into place. But this sense of the Republican Congress and the administration had been irresponsible on immigration was kind of foundational to his approach to the election.
And that's a lot of money. The issue, though, is David Chalian is finding the message for Democrats, I would imagine, because that still seems to be a major challenge for this party, even a few months out from November.
There's no doubt about that. They'll certainly run on health care. They'll run on concern over Social Security and Medicare being rated to pay for high-end tax cuts, sort of traditional Democratic messaging. But there is still a debate very much raging inside the party about how much anti-Trump do you have to be? How much does it have to be focused on other things? And on this issue, as Alex is noting, if you take a look across the country in these campaigns, it's not like all of a sudden every Democratic candidate was jumping onto the airwaves to sort of use this issue and make it the thing that they're talking about in their campaigns. It's not, because they are concerned about that broader, trickier for them immigration issue. But I do think with suburban, women, independent voters in a lot of these key districts all across the country where the battle for the House is really happening, this moment of what looked to be a non-compassionate moment from the Trump administration in very stark relief, that is the kind of imagery that really can sear inside the voters' mind.
And it's not clear it's over yet. And we'll come back to that in just a second. But Alex, just on this $80 million one more time, is it just me, or does it seem like Democrats have yet to figure out how to do independent expenditures in a productive way? Republicans sort of have, but the Democratic model is what, Tom Steyer, and that has been, mixed results.
Certainly at the sort of billionaire sort of political sugar daddy level, they have not been as successful as Republicans by any means at getting your sort of $30 million check from Sheldon Adelson into a well-organized party group that is going to drive the message that candidates want. They have had more sort of participants like Tom Steyer, this hedge fund billionaire who's been funding ads about impeachment that many Democrats feel are actually not helpful to their candidates. So what the Bloomberg model is doing, he has relationships with the current members of the House leadership team, with traditional Democratic groups like Emily's List and the League of Conservation Voters. At least the hope among Democrats is that this is a guy who will color inside the lines.
Right, and there's a little fear, too, which I know you have in your reporting about